The Zanari survey vessel moved slowly through the dark space at the edge of an unknown star system. Inside the ship, Commander Vorath looked at the screens in front of him. His golden eyes studied the information carefully. The third planet from the sun showed interesting signs. There were radio waves coming from it. There was pollution in the air. There were lights on the dark side of the planet. Vorath felt excited. This meant intelligent life. A young species probably just learning how to use technology. Maybe they had discovered electricity 100 years ago. Maybe they had just started using radio signals. This was exactly what his mission was about. Find new species. Study them. Report back to the Galactic Assembly. Commander, I am seeing something strange, said the sensor officer. Her scales changed color from green to yellow. This meant she was confused. Something is coming toward us from the inner system. It is moving very fast. Vorath leaned forward in his chair. In 40 years of exploring space, he had seen many things. He had found dozens of new species. Some were still living in caves. Some had just discovered fire. Some had built cities and machines, but none of them had ever come out to meet him in space. They were always still stuck on their home planets. Show me, he said. The main screen changed. It showed a dot moving through space. The computer was calculating its speed and size. Vorath watched the numbers appear. His scales turned pale blue. That was impossible. The object was huge. It was twice the size of his survey ship, and it was moving with purpose like it knew exactly where it was going. Get a better image, Vorath ordered. His voice was calm, but inside he felt worried. The image became clearer. What Vorath saw made him feel cold. The vessel was covered in metal. It had sharp angles and flat surfaces, and all over its hull he could see what looked like weapons. Many, many weapons. Send the first contact signal, Vorath said quietly. Use the standard pattern. Mathematics first. Then chemistry. Far away on the human warship called the Valiant, alarms started beeping. Captain Jacob Hayes was in his chair on the bridge. He sat up straight when he heard the sounds. Around him, his crew moved quickly to their stations. Report, Hayes said. His voice was steady and strong. Unknown vessel detected, sir, said Lieutenant Amy Foster. She was sitting at the communication station. It just appeared on our sensors. It is not using any technology we recognize. Hayes felt his heart beat faster. This was the moment that every human had wondered about. The moment when they would finally meet someone else in the universe. Someone not from Earth. What do we know about it? Hayes asked. It is smaller than us, said Commander Lisa Price. She was standing next to his chair. She was his second in command. It does not seem to have heavy weapons. It is just sitting there not moving. Sir, we are getting a transmission, Amy said suddenly. Her eyes were wide. It is not voice. It is a pattern. Numbers, prime numbers, sir. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. Hayes smiled a little. He had read about this in training. If you ever met aliens, they might use mathematics to talk. Mathematics was universal. Every intelligent species would understand numbers. Send the same pattern back to them, Hayes ordered. Let them know we understand. But Amy, keep it friendly. We do not want to scare them. Yes, sir, Amy said. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls. The Valiant was a powerful ship. It was one of 12 like it that Earth had built. It was over 1 kilometer long. It had weapons that could destroy entire cities. It had shields that could protect it from almost anything. It had been built to protect humanity. Because humans did not know what was out there in the dark. They did not know if aliens would be friendly or dangerous. So they built ships like the Valiant, just in case. Keep our weapons ready, Hayes said quietly to Lisa. But do not point them at the alien ship. I do not want them to think we are threatening them. Understood, Lisa said. She gave orders to the weapons officer. On the Zanari ship, Vorath was watching his screens carefully. The human ship had responded to their signal. That was good. They understood mathematics. They were intelligent. But Vorath was confused about something else. Check those power readings again, he told his engineer. That cannot be right. The engineer looked at his instruments. He checked them twice. Then he looked at Vorath. His scales turned orange, which meant he was worried. The readings are correct, Commander, the engineer said. That ship is generating enormous amounts of power. More power than we can generate. More power than any ship I have ever seen. Vorath did not understand. How could a species this young have such powerful technology? The Zanari had been traveling in space for thousands of years. They had learned slowly, carefully. It had taken them 800 years to go from splitting atoms to traveling faster than light, but these humans seemed to have advanced much faster. Send our biological information, Vorath said. Let them know we are carbon-based life. Let them know we breathe oxygen. Let them know we come in peace. On the Valiant, Lieutenant Kyle Martinez was working at his station. He was the language expert. His job was to figure out how to talk to aliens. The ship's computer was helping him. Together, they were building a translation program. Captain, I think I can set up a basic conversation system, Kyle said. It will be rough, but we should be able to exchange simple ideas. How long? Hayes asked. A few hours, maybe less, Kyle said. Hayes nodded. Make it happen. Amy, send a message to Earth. Tell them we have made contact. Tell them we are beginning first contact procedures. Hours passed. Both ships worked on building a way to talk to each other. The Zanari sent information about their language. The humans sent information about English. Slowly, the computers on both ships learned how to translate. Finally, Kyle looked up from his station. Captain, they are sending a message. A real message, not just numbers. They want to meet us. Face to face, Hayes thought about this. It could be dangerous. They did not know anything about these aliens. But it was also an opportunity, a chance to make peace, a chance to make friends with another species. Tell them yes, Hayes said. But we meet in space between our two ships. Small groups only. And tell them we will have security with us. I want them to know we are being careful. Yes, sir, Kyle said. Vorath received the human response. He felt relieved. They were willing to meet. That was good, but they were also being careful. They were bringing security. That made sense. They did not know the Zanari. They did not know if they could be trusted. Prepare a shuttle, Vorath told his crew. I will go myself. Bring 2 scientists and 1 security officer. We will show them we are peaceful. As both sides prepared for the meeting, neither of them understood what was about to happen. Neither of them knew that this first contact would change everything. The Zanari thought they were meeting a young, primitive species. The humans thought they were meeting advanced space travelers. Both of them were right, and both of them were about to be very surprised. Part 2, The Misunderstanding. The meeting took place in a small shuttle bay that the Valiant had depressurized and prepared as neutral ground. Captain Hayes brought Commander Price, Lieutenant Martinez, and 2 armed security personnel. Protocol dictated caution. When the Zanari delegation arrived in their small craft, Hayes got his first look at an alien species. They were reptilian in appearance with iridescent scales that shifted colors, large golden eyes, and graceful movements. Commander Vorath led his team with what appeared to be confidence. Through the translation devices, preliminary exchanges were cordial. Vorath explained that the Zanari had been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years, that they were part of a peaceful alliance of civilizations, and that they were delighted to discover humanity. We had detected your electromagnetic emissions, Vorath said, his translator rendering the words in slightly stilted English. We assumed you were decades, perhaps a century away from faster-than-light capability. Your presence here is surprising, Hayes smiled politely. We've been working on our technology for quite some time. Earth is our home, but we've expanded throughout our solar system over the past 50 years. Vorath's scales shifted to a pale blue, indicating confusion in his species' body language. Forgive my directness, but this vessel, the technology required to build it, suggests a much longer timeline. How long has your species possessed nuclear technology? About 130 years, Commander Price answered. The Zanari delegation exchanged glances. That was impossible. Their own species had taken nearly 800 years to progress from nuclear fission to faster-than-light travel. Every other species in the assembly had similar timelines. The humans couldn't possibly have achieved this in barely a century. And your faster-than-light drive, Vorath pressed. How long have you possessed this capability? Hayes paused. Something felt off about these questions. Commander Vorath, I think there may be some confusion. The Valiant is equipped with a fusion drive system and advanced propulsion, but we don't have faster-than-light capability. We're still working on the theoretical frameworks. The silence that followed was profound. Vorath felt his confidence shatter completely. You don't have faster-than-light travel? Then how did you construct this vessel? The power generation alone requires technology that should take millennia to develop. We're a determined species, Hayes said carefully. The small shuttle moved through empty space between the two ships. Inside, Commander Vorath sat with his team. He had brought 2 scientists and 1 security officer. They were all nervous. This was history happening right now. The first time the Zanari would meet this new species face to face. Remember, Vorath said to his team, we represent the entire Galactic Assembly. Be polite, be patient. They are young. They do not know our ways yet. The shuttle landed inside a large bay on the human warship. The doors opened. Vorath and his team stepped out onto the metal floor. The bay was empty except for 5 humans waiting for them. Vorath got his first look at the aliens. They stood on 2 legs like the Zanari, but they had no scales. Their skin was smooth and came in different colors. They had hair on their heads. They had small eyes that looked forward. They wore uniforms that were dark blue with gold markings. The human in the center stepped forward. He was tall and had short gray hair. His face was serious but not unfriendly. Through the translation device that hung around Vorath's neck, words came out in the Zanari language. Welcome aboard the Valiant. I am Captain Jacob Hayes. This is Commander Lisa Price, Lieutenant Kyle Martinez, and 2 of my security team. We come in peace. Vorath touched his chest with his right hand. This was the Zanari greeting. I am Commander Vorath of the Zanari Exploration Fleet. We are honored to meet you. We also come in peace. The 2 groups moved to a room that the humans had prepared. There was a large table. There were chairs for the humans and different seats for the Zanari, whose tails made normal chairs uncomfortable. There were screens on the walls showing images of both Earth and the Zanari homeworld. They sat down across from each other. For a moment, nobody spoke. They just looked at each other. 2 species meeting for the first time in history. Captain Hayes spoke first. Commander Vorath, we have many questions. But first, let me say that Earth is grateful for this meeting. We have wondered if we were alone in the universe for a very long time. Vorath's scales changed to a warm green color. This meant he was pleased. You are not alone. The Galactic Assembly includes 47 different species. We have been exploring and learning together for thousands of years. We are happy to welcome humanity to the community of intelligent life. One of the Zanari scientists, a female named Kessa, leaned forward. We detected your radio signals from your planet. We thought you were just beginning to use technology. But then we found your ship out here. We are confused. How long has your species been traveling in space? Commander Price answered. We launched our first satellite about 70 years ago. We put our first human in space about 65 years ago. We landed on our moon 55 years ago. We have had permanent stations in our solar system for about 30 years. The Zanari looked at each other. Their scales all turned pale blue. Vorath spoke slowly. That is very fast progress. Most species take much longer. The Zanari took 300 years to go from first satellite to permanent space stations. Lieutenant Kyle, the language expert, was watching both groups carefully. He could see the confusion on both sides. Something was not matching up. Commander Vorath, Kyle said, can I ask about your ship? How fast can it travel? Vorath seemed happy to answer. Our survey vessel can travel at 5 times the speed of light. It is not our fastest ship, but it is good enough for exploration. The humans were quiet. Captain Hayes looked at Commander Price. She looked back at him. Both of them were thinking the same thing. Commander Vorath, Hayes said carefully. The Valiant cannot travel faster than light. We have theories about how to do it, but we have not built a working drive yet. We are still years away from that. Now it was Vorath's turn to be silent. He stared at Captain Hayes. His scales turned several different colors quickly. This meant he was very confused and worried. But your ship, Vorath said, it is enormous. The power generation alone should require technology that takes thousands of years to develop. How can you have this without faster-than-light travel? Hayes thought about how to explain. We have been working very hard. When we decided to build ships like the Valiant, we put a lot of money and effort into it. Many of our best scientists and engineers worked on the project. Kessa, the Zanari scientist, spoke up. But why would you build such a large warship? That is what it is, correct? A military vessel? Yes, Commander Price said. The Valiant is a warship. We built it to protect Earth and our colonies in the solar system. Protect from what? Vorath asked. His scales were now orange with worry. You did not know there were other species out here. What did you need protection from? There was a long pause. Captain Hayes looked uncomfortable. From ourselves, mostly, and from whatever else might be out there. Earth's history is full of conflicts. Nations fighting other nations. Groups fighting other groups. When we started going into space, we did not know if we would find friends or enemies, so we prepared for both. The Zenari security officer, who had been quiet until now, asked a direct question. How many wars has your species had? Lieutenant Kyle looked down at his hands. Thousands. Over our recorded history, we have had thousands of conflicts. In just the last 100 years, we had 2 wars that involved most of the planet. Millions of people died. The Zenari were completely still. Vorath felt something cold in his chest. Millions. In just 2 wars? In each war, Hayes said quietly. Yes. Kessa's scales turned almost white. The Zenari have not had a major war in 3,000 years. Before that, we had perhaps 20 conflicts in our entire history. The worst killed a few thousand. But millions? That is horrible. It was, Hayes agreed. It is. That is why we built the Valiant. To make sure it never happens again. To make sure we can defend ourselves if we need to. To make sure that peace is maintained. Vorath was starting to understand something that frightened him. Your weapon systems. Can you describe them? Over the next hour, the humans explained their technology. They had railguns that fired metal projectiles at incredible speeds. They had missiles with nuclear warheads. They had lasers that could cut through armor. They had defensive systems that could track thousands of targets at once. With each explanation, the Zenari became more and more worried. Vorath finally held up his hand. Please stop. I need to understand something. You have nuclear weapons on your ship? Yes, Hayes said. Standard equipment on all our warships. How long have you had nuclear technology? Vorath asked. About 130 years, Price answered. Vorath's scales went dark purple. This was the color of fear. We used nuclear weapons once in our history. Once. The entire planet was so horrified that we banned them forever. That was 5,000 years ago. You still use them? Not on Earth, Hayes said quickly. We have not used nuclear weapons in war for over 75 years. But we keep them for defense. For deterrence. The word came through the translator in a way that made Vorath shiver. Deterrence. The idea that you prevent war by promising that war would be too terrible. It was a concept the Zenari had abandoned millennia ago. Kyle spoke up, trying to ease the tension. Commander Vorath, I think we need to understand something. Yes, humanity has a violent history, but we have been learning. We have been growing. We have united most of our planet under a single government. We have been at peace for decades. We are better than we were. But you still build warships, Kessa said. You still carry weapons that can destroy cities. You still prepare for war. Because peace without strength is just hoping nothing bad happens, Commander Price said. We learned that the hard way. Many times. Vorath stood up slowly. His team stood with him. Captain Hayes, I need to report this to the Galactic Assembly. They need to know about humanity, about your capabilities, about your history. Hayes stood too. What will you tell them? Vorath was quiet for a moment. Then he said the truth, that we have found a species that is technologically advanced far beyond what they should be, that they have achieved in a century what takes others thousands of years, that they are heavily armed and experienced in war, that they are not yet capable of faster-than-light travel, but that when they are, they could be the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The humans looked at each other. None of them had expected this. They had hoped for friendship, for alliance, for a welcome into the galactic community. Instead, they saw fear in the aliens' eyes. Not fear of the unknown, fear of what they knew humanity could become. Commander Vorath, Hayes said, we do not want to be a threat. We want to be friends. We want to learn from you. We want to be part of the Galactic Assembly. Vorath's scales softened a little. I believe you, Captain. I believe you are sincere. But belief is not enough. The Assembly will need proof. They will need to know that humanity can be trusted. And right now, looking at your warship, looking at your weapons, looking at your history, I do not know how you will prove that. The meeting ended with worry on both sides. The Zenari returned to their ship. The humans returned to their bridge. Both groups knew that first contact had not gone the way anyone had hoped. The galaxy had just learned that humanity existed, and humanity had just learned that the galaxy might see them as a danger. The Galactic Assembly meeting hall was huge. It floated in space around a bright star. Inside, representatives from 47 different species gathered. Some were there in person. Some appeared as holograms from their distant worlds. All of them were there for the same reason: to decide what to do about humanity. Commander Vorath stood in the center of the hall. A spotlight shone down on him. Around him, in a giant circle, sat or floated or stood the representatives of the assembly. He had spent the last week preparing his report. Now he had to deliver it. "Honored members," Vorath began, "I have returned from the Sol system. I have met the humans, and I must tell you that everything we thought we knew about how species develop is wrong." He pressed a button. Images appeared on the screens around the hall. Pictures of Earth, pictures of the Valiant, pictures of human cities and human weapons and human technology. The humans have had radio technology for only 130 years. They have been in space for less than 70 years. By all our models, they should still be decades away from leaving their planet's orbit. Instead, they have colonies throughout their solar system. They have built 12 massive warships, and they are close to developing faster than light travel. A representative from the Kelthran species spoke up. The Kelthran were beings made of energy, living inside crystal shells. Their voice sounded like music. How is this possible? No species advances this quickly. Vorath's scales turned gray. They advance quickly because they have been at war almost constantly for their entire history. Competition drives innovation. Conflict forces advancement. The humans have weaponized everything. Every technology they develop is first used for military purposes, then adapted for peaceful use later. Another representative, this one from the Myrosian species, spoke. The Myrosians looked like large octopuses with 12 arms. "You said they have 12 warships. Are they a threat to us?" "Yes," Vorath said simply. "I analyzed their weapons. Their technology is different from ours, but it is not weaker. In some ways, it is stronger. A single human warship could fight 3 of our ships and probably win, and they have 12 of these vessels. Once they develop faster than light travel, they could expand across the galaxy within a few generations." The hall erupted in noise. Representatives talked to each other. Some sounded scared, some sounded angry, some sounded curious. The Speaker of the Assembly, an old Zanari named Thorn, raised his hand for silence. "Commander Vorath," Thorn said, "do the humans seem aggressive? Did they threaten you?" "No," Vorath admitted. Captain Hayes was polite. He was careful. "He could have destroyed my ship easily, but he chose to talk instead. They say they want peace. They say they want to join the Assembly. But can we trust them?" asked the Kelthran representative. "A species that has had thousands of wars? That still carries nuclear weapons? That builds such powerful warships?" Far away on Earth, similar discussions were happening. President Linda Grant sat in the White House Situation Room. Around her were leaders from every major nation on the planet. On the big screen was Captain Hayes calling in from the Valiant. "Let me make sure I understand," said the Chinese premier. "The aliens are afraid of us?" "Yes, ma'am," Hayes confirmed. "They think we are too violent, too dangerous. They are worried about what we might do once we can travel faster than light." The Russian president laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "This is ironic. We finally meet aliens and they think we are the monsters. Are they wrong?" asked the European Union representative. "We have killed millions of each other. We have built enough weapons to destroy our own planet many times over. Maybe they are right to be afraid." President Grant leaned forward. "What are our options, Captain?" Hayes looked tired. "According to Commander Vorath, the Assembly is considering 4 possibilities. First, they quarantine us. They build a barrier around our solar system and do not let us leave. Second, they share some technology with us but watch us very closely. Third, they attack us now before we become too powerful." The room went completely silent. Finally, the Indian Prime Minister spoke. "They would attack us? Start a war to prevent a war?" "Some of them are suggesting it," Hayes said. "Not all, but some." "What is the 4th option?" Grant asked. "Full partnership," Hayes said. "They welcome us completely. Share all their technology. Trust us to become peaceful members of the galactic community." But Commander Vorath says very few species support this idea. The Brazilian president shook his head. "So we have 3 bad choices and 1 impossible choice. What do we do?" Grant looked around the room. "We prove them wrong. We show them that humanity can change, that we are more than our history." "How?" asked the Japanese Prime Minister. "How do we prove we are peaceful while sitting inside warships?" On the screen, Commander Price appeared next to Hayes. "If I may, Madam President, I think we show them by our actions. The Valiant and the other warships were built for defense. We have never attacked anyone. We have never invaded anyone. We need to make them understand that strength and aggression are not the same thing. Back in the assembly hall, the debate was getting heated. The Kelthran representative was speaking loudly. We cannot take this risk. The humans are too dangerous. We should act now while we still can. Destroy their industrial capability. Set them back a few centuries. Give them time to mature before they reach the stars. The Myrosian representative objected. That is exactly what they would expect from a hostile universe. If we attack them, we prove that they were right to build warships. We prove that violence is the answer. We become what they fear. A small species called the Trill spoke up. They looked like insects, but were actually very intelligent. Every species here has a dark past. The Zanari had wars. The Myrosians had wars. Even the Kelthran had conflicts before they evolved into energy beings. We all grew beyond our violent natures. Why do we assume the humans cannot do the same? Because they have not done it yet, the Kelthran replied. They are still building weapons, still preparing for war, still divided into competing nations. Vorath asked permission to speak again. If I may, I want to add something. When I was with Captain Hayes, I saw something important. He was afraid not of us. He was afraid of what his own weapons could do. He was afraid of making a mistake. That fear, that awareness of the danger, that is what gives me hope. Thorn, the speaker, nodded slowly. You think this fear makes them safer? I think it makes them careful, Vorath said. A species that does not fear its own weapons is dangerous. A species that does fear them might learn restraint. The debate continued for hours, then days, then weeks. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity waited. Normal life tried to continue. But everyone knew about the aliens now. Everyone knew that humanity was being judged. The news showed images of the Zanari ship. People argued on television about what humanity should do. Some said they should disarm, show the aliens they wanted peace. Others said they should build more weapons, show the aliens they could not be pushed around. Captain Hayes kept the Valiant on patrol. He sent regular reports to Earth. He also sent messages to Commander Vorath trying to build trust. The two commanders talked about their worlds, their families, their hopes. Slowly, carefully, a friendship began to form. One day, Vorath sent a message that made Hayes sit up in his chair. Captain, the Assembly is reaching a decision. I wanted you to know first. It will not be what you hoped for, but it is not what I feared either. There is a middle path. Hayes called President Grant immediately. Madam President, we are about to get the Assembly's answer. The official message came through the next day. It was broadcast to all of Earth in every human language. The Myrosian representative spoke, his translated words appearing on screens around the world. People of Earth, the Galactic Assembly has considered your situation carefully. We have debated and discussed and disagreed, but we have reached a decision. We will not quarantine you. We will not attack you, but we cannot yet offer full membership either. Instead, we propose a trial period, a time for both of us to learn about each other, a time for humanity to prove it can be trusted, a time for the Assembly to prove we are worthy of your trust. The message continued, explaining the details. Humanity would have access to some advanced technology, not faster than light travel yet, but improvements to their existing systems, better medicine, better energy production, better food production. In return, Earth would accept observers from the Assembly. Cultural exchanges would happen. Human scientists would study with alien scientists. Human artists would share with alien artists. And most importantly, humanity would agree not to expand its military beyond the solar system for 50 years. When the message ended, the world reacted. Some people were happy, some were angry. Some felt insulted, but most felt something else, relief. They had a chance. The galaxy had not rejected them. The galaxy was giving them an opportunity to prove themselves. On the Valiant, Captain Hayes read the full details of the agreement. 50 years without expansion, constant observation, limited technology sharing. It was not perfect, but it was hope. Commander Price stood next to him. What do you think, sir? Hayes looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Commander Vorath was looking at the same stars. Two species so different, trying to find a way to coexist. 12 months had passed since the Galactic Assembly made their decision. 12 months since humanity learned they were not alone. 12 months since the trial period began. Everything had changed. Captain Jacob Hayes walked through the corridors of the Valiant. The ship looked different now. There were Zanari crew members working alongside humans. There were Myrosian scientists in the research labs. There were Trill engineers studying the ship's systems. The trial period meant observers, and observers meant the Valiant was no longer just a human ship. Hayes entered the conference room. Commander Vorath was already there looking at data on a screen. The Zanari commander now spent half his time on the Valiant and half on his own ship. They had become friends over the past year, though both of them were careful not to let friendship interfere with their duties. "Good morning, Jacob," Vorath said. He had learned to use human names and human greetings. His translator had improved too. He sounded almost natural now. "Morning, Vorath," Hayes replied. "Are you ready for the inspection?" Vorath's scales turned a resigned gray. "As ready as I can be. The Assembly wants detailed reports on human military capabilities. I must give them what they ask for. This was part of the agreement. The Assembly observers could inspect anything, see anything, learn anything. It made many humans uncomfortable, but it was necessary. Trust had to be earned, and that meant transparency. Commander Lisa Price entered the room with Lieutenant Kyle Martinez. Behind them was a Myrosian named Drell. He had been assigned to the Valiant as a cultural observer. His 12 arms moved constantly, a sign that he was nervous or excited. "Captain," Drell said through his translator, "I have completed my monthly report. I must say, working with humans has been enlightening, and confusing, and sometimes frightening, but mostly enlightening." "What confused you this time?" Hayes asked with a slight smile. "Your entertainment," Drell said. His arms waved. "I watched something you call an action movie. It was about humans fighting aliens. Terrible, violent aliens who wanted to destroy Earth. The humans won by being brave and clever and using powerful weapons. The entire audience cheered when the aliens were defeated." Hayes nodded. "Yes, that is a common story in human fiction. But why?" Drell asked. "Why do you create stories where you are the heroes and the aliens are the villains? Why do you imagine us as your enemies?" Kyle spoke up. "Because we did not know you existed. We imagined aliens before we met them, and we imagined the worst because our history taught us to expect danger. But now you know we exist," Drell said. "Now you know we are not villains. Will your stories change?" "Yes," Kyle said. "They already are changing. There are new movies being made now. New books being written. Stories about friendship between species, about working together, about learning from each other." Drell's arms settled down. "Good, that is good. Stories matter. They shape how people think." The inspection took most of the day. Vorath examined the weapon systems, the power generation, the defensive capabilities. He asked questions. He took notes. He sent reports back to the Assembly. Hayes answered every question honestly. This was the deal they had made. Later, in the crew cafeteria, humans and aliens ate together. This had been strange at first. Different species needed different foods, but they had learned to accommodate each other. The humans had brought food that the Zanari could eat. The Zanari had brought food that humans could try. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat with a young Zanari scientist named Pola. They were looking at pictures on Amy's tablet. "This is my family," Amy said. "My parents, my brother, my sister. We all grew up in California." Pola's scales turned a warm green. "They look happy. Is this common among humans? These family groups?" "Very common," Amy said. "Family is important to us. What about you? Do you have family?" "Yes," Pola said. "But our families are larger. We lay many eggs at once. I have 43 siblings." Amy's eyes went wide. 43? I cannot imagine having that many brothers and sisters." "It is normal for us," Pola said. "But I am curious. You said you grew up in California. Is that a nation? A tribe? It is a state. Part of a country, part of North America, part of Earth," Amy explained. "So many divisions," Pola said. "The Zanari have one government for our entire world. We have not had separate nations for thousands of years. Does this not make cooperation difficult?" "Sometimes," Amy admitted. "But we are working on it. The United Earth government is still new. We are still learning how to work together." On Earth, the changes were even more dramatic. Alien embassies had been established in major cities. Zanari diplomats walked the streets of New York. Myrosian scholars taught at human universities. Trill artists displayed their work in human museums. In Geneva, Switzerland, President Linda Grant met with Assembly representatives. They gathered in a large meeting room overlooking the city. The topic was technology sharing. "We have provided designs for improved fusion reactors," said the Kelthran representative. Its crystal body glowed softly. "We have shared medical knowledge that will extend human lifespans. We have given you better agricultural methods that will end hunger on your world. What will you give us in return?" Grant had prepared for this question. "We offer our perspective, our different way of solving problems, our creativity born from adversity. We offer our music, our art, our literature. We offer our friendship." "Pretty words," the Kelthran said. "But the Assembly wants assurance. We want to know that humans will not use our technology to build more weapons, to become more dangerous." "We have held to our agreement," Grant said firmly. "We have not built any new warships. We have not expanded beyond our solar system. We have been completely transparent with your observers. What more do you want?" "We want proof that you have changed," the Kelthran said. "That you are becoming peaceful." Grant felt frustrated. "How do we prove something like that?" "We cannot erase our history. We cannot pretend we never had wars. All we can do is show you that we are different now, that we are trying to be better." The Myrosian representative spoke up. "President Grant, I believe you. I have seen the changes on Earth. I have watched humans work with our people. I have seen cooperation and kindness. But you must understand, the Assembly is afraid, not of what you are now, of what you might become." Back on the Valiant, Hayes received a message from Earth Command. There was a situation developing. A small colony on Mars had experienced a critical failure in their life support systems. They had maybe 48 hours before the oxygen ran out. The nearest human ship was 70 hours away, but the Zanari survey vessel was only 30 hours away. Hayes immediately contacted Vorath. "We need your help. Human lives are in danger. Can your ship reach Mars in time?" Vorath did not hesitate. "We will leave immediately. Send us the coordinates." The Zanari ship arrived at the Mars colony with 12 hours to spare. They brought replacement parts. They brought medical supplies. They brought hope. The colony was saved. When the news reached Earth, millions of people watched as human colonists thanked their Zanari rescuers. President Grant called Hayes personally. "This is it, Jacob. This is the proof we needed. The aliens did not have to save our people, but they did. And we will remember this." "It works both ways, Madam President," Hayes said. "They saved us today. Maybe tomorrow we will save them. That is what partners do." 3 months later, that chance came. A Trill science station in a nearby star system lost power during a solar storm. Their ship was damaged. They were stranded. The Valiant was the closest vessel with the capability to help. Hayes did not wait for orders. "Set course for the Trill station. Maximum speed. Commander Price, prepare rescue teams." The Valiant arrived in 36 hours. They rescued all 43 Trill scientists. They repaired the damaged ship. They stayed until the solar storm passed and the station was safe again. The Trill representative to the Assembly sent a message that was broadcast across the galaxy. "The humans came to save us without hesitation. They risked their own lives to protect ours. This is not the action of a warlike species. This is the action of good neighbors, of true friends." Slowly, opinion in the Assembly began to shift. Not completely, not everywhere, but enough that people started to see humanity differently. Not as a threat to be contained, not as children to be guided, but as equals, as partners, as friends. On the 1-year anniversary of first contact, both the Valiant and the Zanari survey vessel held a joint ceremony. Humans and Zanari gathered together. They shared food. They shared stories. They shared hope for the future. Commander Vorath stood next to Captain Hayes. "1 year ago I was afraid of you," Vorath said. "I thought humans were too dangerous, too violent. I wanted the Assembly to limit you, to control you." "I was wrong," Hayes smiled. "You were not wrong to be cautious. We are dangerous. We do have a violent history, but you were wrong to think that was all we were. You have learned that we are also kind, loyal, brave, creative." "Yes," Vorath agreed. His scales turned a hopeful gold color. "And we have learned that change is possible, that a species can grow beyond its past. That trust, once earned, is the strongest bond in the universe." They looked out at the stars together. Two species, once strangers, now friends. The trial period still had 49 years to go. But both of them knew that humanity had already proven what needed to be proven. Not that they were perfect, 5 years had passed since first contact. 5 years of learning, sharing, and growing. The trial period was meant to last 50 years, but something unexpected was about to happen. Something that would force the Galactic Assembly to make a decision much sooner. The warning came from the far edge of known space. A species called the War were expanding aggressively. They were not part of the Assembly. They did not believe in peace or cooperation. They believed in strength and conquest, and they were moving toward Assembly space. Captain Jacob Hayes sat in an emergency meeting on the Valiant. On the screen in front of him were faces he had come to know well over the past 5 years. Commander Vorath, President Linda Grant, Assembly Speaker Thorne, and several military commanders from different species. The Vor have destroyed 3 colony worlds already, Speaker Thorne said. His old voice was heavy with sadness. They do not negotiate. They do not warn. They simply attack and take what they want. A Kelthran military commander spoke next. We are preparing our defense fleet. But the Vor have superior numbers. Their technology is roughly equal to ours, but they have more ships, many more ships. Hayes looked at the tactical display. The Vor fleet was massive. Hundreds of ships all moving together toward Assembly space. The Assembly could field maybe 200 warships. It would be a close fight. Maybe too close. What about the human fleet? Asked Commander Vorath quietly. Everyone turned to look at Hayes. He felt the weight of their attention. The 12 dreadnought warships that Earth had built were powerful. Very powerful. But they were meant to defend Earth, not fight in alien wars. I need to speak with President Grant, Hayes said. This decision is beyond my authority. The meeting paused while Hayes had a private conversation with the president. She was in the White House, surrounded by advisors. The entire leadership of Earth was debating this same question. Captain, what is your recommendation? Grant asked. Hayes thought carefully before answering. Madam President, 5 years ago the Assembly was afraid of us. They thought we were too violent, too dangerous. We have spent 5 years proving them wrong, showing them we can be peaceful. But now there is a real threat, a real war. If we refuse to help, we prove that our peace was just weakness, that we only care about ourselves. But if we help, Grant said, we prove that we are exactly as dangerous as they feared. We show them our weapons in action. We show them what humans can do in war. Commander Lisa Price, who was standing next to Hayes, spoke up. Forgive me, Madam President, but I think there is a difference. The Assembly feared we would start wars. This war is not our doing. The Assembly feared we would be aggressors. Defending innocent people is not aggression. Grant was quiet for a long moment. Hayes could see her thinking, weighing options, considering consequences. Finally, she spoke. The United Earth government will vote on this. But Captain Hayes, I want you to know my position. I believe we should help. Not because we are warlike, but because we are human, and humans protect their friends. 6 hours later, the vote came through. It was not unanimous. Some nations wanted to stay neutral. Some were afraid of the cost. But the majority voted yes. Earth would help the Galactic Assembly fight the Vor. Hayes transmitted the decision to the emergency meeting. The human fleet is at your disposal, Speaker Thorne. All 12 dreadnoughts will join the defense. The relief on the faces of the alien commanders was visible. But Speaker Thorne looked troubled. Captain Hayes, you understand what this means? You understand that once humans fight in this war, everything changes? The trial period becomes meaningless. You will have shown the galaxy what you are capable of. Yes, Hayes said. We understand. But we would rather be judged for defending our friends than for abandoning them. The combined fleet gathered at a strategic point in space. 12 human dreadnoughts, 200 assembly warships. Facing them was the Vor fleet. Hundreds of dark ships, bristling with weapons, advancing without fear or hesitation. Hayes stood on the bridge of the Valiant. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. Next to him stood Commander Vorath. The Zanari had insisted on staying aboard the human ship, even though it would be in the center of the battle. Are you afraid? Vorath asked quietly. Yes, Hayes admitted. I am always afraid before battle. Fear keeps you sharp, keeps you careful. The dangerous soldiers are the ones who are not afraid. I am afraid too, Vorath said. I am afraid that after today, the Assembly will see humans differently. Not as peaceful friends, but as warriors. We are warriors, Hayes said. We always have been, but warriors can choose what they fight for. Today, we fight for you, for the Assembly, for peace. The Vor fleet entered weapons range. The battle began. The fighting was terrible. Laser fire cut through space. Missiles streaked toward their targets. Ships exploded in bright flashes. The assembly fleet fought bravely, but they were being pushed back. The Vor had too many ships. Too much firepower. Then the human dreadnoughts entered the fight. The Valiant's railguns fired, sending projectiles at incredible speeds. Each shot hit a Warship with devastating force. The ship's missile batteries launched, dozens of warheads tracking multiple targets. The point defense systems destroyed incoming fire before it could reach the hull. Around the Valiant, the other 11 dreadnoughts did the same. They moved through the battle like dancers, aggressive but controlled, powerful but precise. They protected the assembly ships. They targeted the Vor command vessels. They turned the tide of the battle. On the assembly flagship, commanders watched in amazement. "Look at them," one said. "The humans fight like they have been doing this for centuries." "They have," another replied. "Just not in space." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vor fleet was in retreat. They had lost over half their ships. The assembly had lost maybe 20 ships, far fewer than would have been lost without human help. And the human dreadnoughts had suffered only minor damage. Not a single human ship was destroyed. In the aftermath, the galaxy watched recordings of the battle. They saw the human warships in action for the first time. They saw the weapons that Earth had built. They saw what humans could do when they chose to fight. The reaction was mixed. Some species were grateful. Some were impressed. Some were more afraid than ever. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humanity was now a major military power in the galaxy. There was no denying it. No minimizing it. The trial period was over, not because 50 years had passed, but because humans had proven themselves in the most definitive way possible. 2 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Assembly held another emergency session. But this time the topic was different. This time, they were not deciding what to do about humanity. They were deciding whether to offer full membership. Speaker Thorne addressed the assembly. "We have seen what humans can do in war. They are as dangerous as we feared, perhaps more dangerous, but we have also seen what they choose to do with that danger. They chose to protect us. They chose to defend the innocent. They chose to stand with us against tyranny. This is not the action of a warlike species. This is the action of a noble one." The Kelthran representative, who had been one of humanity's strongest critics, spoke up. "I was wrong about the humans. I thought their capacity for violence made them untrustworthy. But I understand now that capacity is not the same as intent. The humans have the ability to make war, but they also have the wisdom to choose when and why to use that ability. That wisdom is what we should value." The vote was not unanimous. It never was in the assembly. But it was overwhelming. 43 species voted yes. Only 4 voted no. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Assembly. No restrictions. No observers. No trial period. Full partners in the galactic community. When the news reached Earth, the planet celebrated. In every city, people gathered to watch the announcement. They cheered. They cried. They felt pride in what humanity had become. On the Valiant, Captain Hayes received a personal message from Speaker Thorne. "Captain Hayes, the Assembly, thanks you for your service. We also want to share something with you. The theory for faster-than-light travel. You have earned the right to reach the stars." Hayes looked at Commander Vorath. The Zanari scales were bright gold with happiness. "You did it, Jacob. Humanity is free to explore the galaxy. What will you do with this freedom?" Hayes smiled. "The same thing we have always done. We will explore. We will learn. We will make mistakes. We will grow. But most importantly, we will do it as friends, as partners, as members of something larger than ourselves." 3 months later, the first human ship equipped with a faster-than-light drive left the solar system. Captain Hayes commanded it, of course. Commander Vorath went with him, representing the assembly. Together they jumped into the unknown, traveling to distant stars that humans had only dreamed of reaching. The journey took seconds instead of years. When they emerged in a new star system, hundreds of light years from Earth, Hayes looked at the alien suns with wonder. "We made it," he said quietly. "Humanity has reached the stars." "Yes," Vorath agreed. "And the galaxy is better for it. You brought something we had forgotten, the willingness to fight for what is right, the courage to face danger, the strength to protect the weak. These are not weaknesses. They are gifts." Hayes thought about the long journey that had led to this moment.